There's no one I'd like to meet or hang out with more than Cenk, Uygur, or Anna Kasparian. Unfortunately, we fundamentally differ in our view of public discourse. They believe if they make the right arguments, present the right facts, that they get an audience of, well, almost everyone. I believe that's not possible. I believe my audience, for example, already exists. I believe it's around 50,000, say. Whatever number it is, I don't believe I can grow it. I'm only a conduit for others who think like me to further their journey, our journey. I just want you to understand that as I continue this video. I believe every audience is limited in size, and that Cenk and Anna's natural audience would never be more than 1 million. They're just too smart, and even that might be stretching it. So why do they keep pushing for more subscribers and more money? Because it's human nature. Anyone who publishes anything from written essays to videos knows as soon as you get 100 people following, you get used to it. Then it isn't enough, and you need more to feel better about yourself, to feel like you're improving. 200, 300, 1,000. I battle this too. I'm not better than them. It takes a lot of introspection and discipline to stay focused on one's natural interests. That is, to not pander to people that aren't your core audience. Okay, on to ripping them apart. And by the way, so really what I'm doing when I'm sort of criticizing them, I'm criticizing myself. I'm telling myself, don't do that.
And there's one consistent thing outside of here at TYT, which is that money rules everything around you.
Outside of here at TYT, money rules everything? Well, I mean, that's interesting. I went to their site after watching this video, and I get to the landing page immediately. Help TYT speak truth to power. They wanted money immediately. And then went to watch a video. Enjoy this free video? They're more available. Just, send us some money. And then, went to, comment on it. Oh, you want to comment? You got to pay money. So, no. Outside, it is not outside of here at TYT. It's inside of here at TYT, too. Just go to your own website.
Okay, so advertisers are sacrosanct, and I remember at MSNBC they didn't want me to criticize an advertiser in one of my scripts, and that's because that's where they get their money. And
Cenk has it backwards. They didn't want him to talk about something because of the advertisers. They didn't want him to talk about something because of the viewers, which won't surprise you based on what I said earlier. The truth of that is in his own statement. His own logic is NBC needs advertisers. Advertisers need politicians, and politicians need what? People. And does it really work that way that the advertisers tell the politicians what to do and the politicians tell the people what to do? No. The people tell the politicians what they want. The politicians tell the advertisers what they want, and that's how the money ends up on any show, whether it's TYT or NBC. People want politicians to talk about what they want or not talk about what they don't want discussed. It all moves up to the money train to NBC. If people wanted what Cenk wants to talk about, they'd elect people who would pay for advertising that would pay NBC for Cenk to talk about that subject. In short, Cenk can't handle the truth. Most people do not want to hear what he wants to talk about. To get around that problem, he sells membership to the progressive tribe for those who, for whatever reason, don't want to watch MSNBC or Fox, but want to belong to something. He's selling, in a sense, a very watered-down, I don't want to say cult, but you know what I'm talking about. He's not selling his intellect. He's not selling Anna's intellect. That, again, to me, there's nobody better than both of them. I mean, their intellectual horsepower is just off the charts. But they're not doing that. They're using their intellectual horsepower to get more followers, money, power, whatever.
One of their top advertisers are American politicians. They use the money in politics to buy ads on news stations. Now, in this case, there's one factor that's even larger when it comes to money, and that's the parent company's financial interest. So, for example, MSNBC, before they turned left, was deeply conservative cable news channel, just like Fox News. They were trying to copy Fox News. This is pre-Keith Olbermann, pre-Rachel Maddow, okay? And they fired everyone who was against the Iraq war when the war was starting. Phil Donahue, Ashley Banfield, Jesse Ventura, etc. I wrote about it in my book, Justice is Coming. Why did they do that? Because at the time, the parent company that owned MSNBC was GE, a defense contractor. And they made an ungodly sum of money from the Iraq war. So they were very much pro-war. They were basically using MSNBC as a marketing outlet, not to do news, but to do marketing for things like war that would actually get them a lot more money.
If what Cenk is saying is true here, then why aren't these weapon makers getting the Republicans to sign off on sending more weapons to Ukraine? I mean, it's good for them, right? For every weapon we send over, we have to build another one. I used to believe this theory, when I was younger, but no more. The weapon manufacturers don't need advertisers to make a market for their products. I mean, Rome, Greece, the Peloponnesian War, do you think the weapon manufacturers then needed advertisers? War is something through the history of mankind that there's always a market for it. And again, Cenk and Anna, they should know better here. They really should. The problem here is that people don't want to talk about war. That's why NBC had to fire those news anchors or whatever. Not because they're talking about the war, though, there's a little of that. But basically it's because when they talked about it, people started tuning out. That's just the fact of the matter. I write about the war. I know that. Anyway, it's a simple question of fewer viewers, fewer ad dollars. If there was a market for war news, wouldn't there already be a channel that was only war news, right? Why isn't there, right? I mean, think about it, right? I mean, there isn't. I mean, because they just aren't advertised. That's my proof. I mean, if you really believe that Raytheon or whatever want to sell, war through NBC, you would think there would be more channels like Rah Rah War. Anyway, the truth is, serious talk about geopolitics is a very small market. Always has been, always will.
So Apple was one of the most profitable companies in the history of the world, and currently today. So they're always in the top 2 to 3. That's how big they are, right? So Apple does not want to endanger its financial interests. And antitrust lawsuits and actually being able to break apart Apple is the #1 danger to Apple. So some tiny little show that they have on a streaming platform they have, even with a guy who's famous, etc. Oh my God, that is nothing compared to the other giant financial interests. So if he's gonna start, upsetting that apple cart, that's an easy kill for them.
They don't like that.
No, they don't, okay? And of course, I mean in the sense of terminating his contract, ending his show, etc. So is that why they got rid of him? Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. I mean, Cenk, are you in the boardroom of Apple? Are you in their legal department? Are they of counsel? I mean, Apple's a huge corporation. And, they have interests, they have geopolitical interests with China and Vietnam and of course, domestic interests. They have online streaming platforms. They have, they just have a lot of different interests. So it's inconceivable to me that their lawyers eventually, if they're dealing with some regulatory issue or litigation or whatever, might not say to somebody, hey, we're so involved in here, we don't want to look like we're taking a side, one way or the other or, whatever. And another thing is that Jon Stewart's interview of Lena Khan was pathetic. It was horrible. I mean, that's what's so funny. I mean, I wonder if Apple watched this interview. It's like, why did we tell him not to interview her? It was a horrible interview. I mean, it was so stupid. I mean, it's like, there's nothing to fear. He didn't get into any of the topics that would concern us. It really was. It was a joke interview. So anyway, yeah, I completely disagree with Cenk right here. I mean, he doesn't know what Apple was thinking, and he doesn't know what that person said to Jon Stewart. We still don't know. Maybe the person said, oh, we'd rather you didn't do a video on Apple, or they might have said, you absolutely cannot do a video on Apple, or we're going to terminate your contract. We don't know.
But I want to go to the next graphic, because this is something that was really emphasized when I was in journalism school, and it shows you why it is that our media is so broken, because it's really owned by a few major corporations. So if you look at this, graphic, you'll see that in 1983, 90% of media outlets were controlled by about 50 companies. Through consolidation, that number is now way down. Comcast, Disney, AT&T, Paramount, Sony, and Fox own most of the news media that Americans consume. And that is a problem. It gives you the illusion of options in the media market. But in reality, when it comes to mainstream media, you don't really have much options because most mainstream media falls under the umbrella of 6 major corporations.
Yeah, so I don't want you to think that Anna isn't doing her part at checking her brain at the door. I mean, seriously? If you're watching this from me, right, it's because I can reach you on YouTube. It's because the media landscape has changed. I couldn't have reached you 10, 20 years ago, right? So of course the media, the mainstream media has consolidated, but that doesn't mean that our accessibility to news, to a variety of sources has changed. If anything, it has expanded. It's almost like two stuff. So her argument is so ridiculous. Like, what does she want? I mean, I don't get it. Like, hey, you have to take, the Max Can't Help It channel and put it on your cable streaming service or put it on the airways for anybody that still has an antenna. I mean, what are you saying? She's using this argument to be like we're the group, we're the progressives, we're being attacked. All the media is consolidating against us. Oh God! I mean, you're on YouTube yourself. You would not exist if it wasn't for these other distribution platforms. It's just, Anna, really.
Yes, and now, by the way, Discovery's taken over for AT&T and ownership of CNN, HBO, etc. But the same idea holds. So, guys, that's why what we do infuriates a lot of the rest of the press, because we refuse to do what these guys do, which is suck up to advertisers that are, there's good advertisers, there's plenty of progressive companies and people trying to do the right thing in the world. Wonderful, right? Happy to have them. But there's a lot of bad guy advertisers, defense contractors, oil companies, you name it, right? And we say no to those. And we don't just maniacally either support the Democrats or the Republicans and tell you a bunch of BS around it. So, but how many places are there like us? Not that many. Why? Because our financial interests are tied to you guys. Like, for example, paid members sustain us, right? We're trying to get to 100,000 members this year. tyt.com/team, help out, right? That way, we're indebted to you guys.
Exactly, yeah.
And if we're one of these big 6, like we merge into one of them, or we cater to all those giant advertisers that want to influence people in Washington, as a lot of these other companies do, well then we're goners, because at that point we're no different than the rest of them. They're all a giant monolith. That's why we show you guys on the show all the time. You'll see on culture war issues, they try to rip us apart.
All right, well, if I get going on that clip, I just won't start. And based on the stuff I've already said, I think you probably know what I'm going to say. But this is what I'm going to conclude with. What I would love for Cenk and Anna to do is stop it. Just stop being a grifter for your little cult news station. Stop trying to be MSNBC or Fox or your own version of these big network players. Stop trying to be one of these top 6. Just do your YouTube show on YouTube, just at a desk, and I bet you guys both make $400,000 a year. Now, again, you don't disclose what you make. I think it's wrong to ask people to keep sending you money and you don't really disclose your financials and you say you're progressive. Again, if you say you're just whatever, regular news, but again, the stuff that you do, So just do a show like I'm doing right here. You guys have the benefit that you can make the money, that the core audience is there. Stop this stuff. You're I'm a voice in the wilderness saying, listen, a lot of people like me, like my little audience of 50,000, we see you for what you are, okay? Complete sellouts, complete money grubbers, complete whatever. Do the news that you want to do with your top intellect. And what it pays, it pays. And don't keep trying to grow. Don't keep trying to get money. You guys get venture capital. You get this, you get that, right? You're begging people for money. Just do your thing, and it'll be great. And I'll start watching it again because I used to watch in the beginning. I loved it, and then I stopped because I couldn't take all this freaking nonsense, all this pandering to the audience about we're better than you. Like we don't take oil money. Well, hey. Turn your lights off, okay? Don't use lights. Don't use energy if you don't like oil, because there's no other place to get oil, FYI. You think like solar and like wind farms is going to give enough energy? It just makes my head explode. Don't worry about whether an advertiser is good or bad. Don't worry about whether others are good or bad. You just do the news with your intellect to reach the audience of others that have intellects like yours. Now, the problem is the world is short of 2 less people that should be using their maximum intellect to help them make their journey. We're at it. We don't have you anymore. So you're making things worse because you're not there. I have to try and fill in. All right. Well, I guess that's it for this episode. See you guys later.